beautiful little baby daughter, Penelope. She's fast asleep, like a little dolly. Oh, did you hear me say your name? So her official name is Penelope Jane Louisa. She is 2 weeks old. My birth was not the most positive birth out there, so there's quite a few complications that happened, and it just wasn't a nice, easy, smooth ride. But I did expect that to happen anyway, because that's just not how my births go. If you don't know, this is my third child. I have two. Yes, I have two boys, Edward, who is 14, and Thomas, who is 12. So this is not my first time having children, but it's been a long time since I've had one. She's absolutely precious. I was induced at 32 weeks for low PAPA. I did an update just before I went into the wards. They started off with gel, and they use a gel, put that inside and wait 6 hours, and then see if any of the contractions happen, and then again. And what this is meant to be doing is opening up your cervix so then they can break your waters and get you into labour. So I went in, they did the first lot, not really much happened. They did the second lot. They started doing stretches and sweeps in between as well, which were really painful and not very nice. And then by the second lot I was having contractions, and then my birthing partners had to go home, so I was on my own at night with having contractions. And then the midwife came in and said that she thought that there was no point putting a third gel in, because I was already 2 centimeters dilated and I was having contractions. So they would just wait for the morning and then put me straight up into delivery, call my birthing partners in, and we would go. So I was like quite happy with this, because I was up all night dealing with the contractions with nothing, just breathing techniques on my own, and they were quite intense. And then they had a new midwife come on, and she was like, I said to her, oh, what time am I going to the delivery ward? And she was like, no, you're not going to the delivery ward, we're going to do 2 more gels on you. And I was like, no, I'm already 2 centimeters dilated. The whole point of just using the gel is so it gets you enough dilated that you can use to break my waters. And she was very strange. Anyway, with a lot of back and forth, then I waited till my sister came in, who's a qualified midwife, and she spoke to this woman and explained that there was no reason and I should be moved on. And so this woman kind of got a bee in her bonnet and decided that what she was said was right. I refused any more gels because, like I said, I didn't need any more. And like the other midwife said, if I had any more, it can distress the baby because there would have been too many contractions. So anyway, after a while speaking to this midwife, she did another stretch and sweep, and then they put, oh, and then we went down for delivery later on that evening, so we had to wait all day for no reason, because we found out there wasn't even anyone in the delivery suite. So I could have gone down first thing in the morning. I was just made to wait all day, having contractions on and off. So Saturday evening we went into the delivery suite. And then once we were in the delivery suite, I had my birthing partners there. But by this point I was, by this point I was already exhausted, because I completely missed a night's sleep. So by the time I was in the delivery suite, I didn't want to eat any food. I was super tired, kind of had enough of it already. So then they broke my waters, which then led the contractions to be quite strong. And after just going through the contractions myself for what seemed like forever, I asked for an epidural. And then they put in the epidural, everything was fine. I started falling asleep because I was just exhausted. The epidural I had to keep using because the contractions were so strong, I could just keep feeling it. So they give you a little button, and then I kept pressing the button, which topped it up, but made it stronger. So you're not basically you're not meant to be able to feel it. So I kept topping it up, and then halfway through the night, I started feeling really cold, and that's not like me because I'm always hot, especially being pregnant and all my hormones. I was like, I felt really cold. I was like, oh, my feet felt freezing, and I asked my partner to put a blanket on me, and then the midwife took it off and was like, oh no, we don't want you to overheat. I was like, but I feel really cold. I don't feel very well, and she said, oh, maybe you're a bit anxious. And I started shaking, and I was like this shaking, and she took my temperature, and it was a little bit high, but not high enough for her to worry about, apparently. So after a while, I started getting really shaky to the point that my partner was actually holding me down because I was just like, my whole body was just shivering. And I didn't know whether it was like adrenaline, I was anxious, I didn't feel well, obviously. And then the next thing I know, she took my temperature again, and then they realised that I had sepsis, I had an infection, and I was having fever, chills. So they, within seconds, a whole team of people came rushing in and would put me on this antibiotic drip. So that really wasn't fun. I felt so ill. And then not so long in my mind after that, I don't know, it could have been longer, who knows with the time. I had this really bad urge to push, and as the contraction came, I just wanted to push, and I couldn't stop it. And I pushed, and then that was it. Then we started pushing. So I had I think it was like 19 minutes pushing maybe, but I was pushing, and then they were like, stop pushing, you're pushing too hard. So she was coming, because she was back to back, and then as she was coming out, I had to stop pushing and then let the contraction happen without me. And what she did was just turn herself. So then I just had to push, and her head was out, push again, and then she came out. And she was born on the 29th of January at, I think, 9:03, and she weighed 7 pounds 5 ounces. And she was a surprise, obviously, because I didn't know what the gender was, hence the blue and the pink nails. I genuinely thought I was having a boy, so much so I had nothing for a girl, literally nothing. Luckily, my sister had brought a baby girl in that was girly and small, because I thought I was having a big boy, so everything I had was kind of neutral, but mainly towards the boy, and quite big, so she doesn't fit in any of that, because she's obviously such a tiny little dolly. But not long after she was born, with all the family around, I had my partner's mum and sister here. I had my mum, my nan, and my sister obviously here, and everyone was around, and it was absolutely lovely. I was getting ahead of myself. Got towards the happy bits before I got of telling you all the stuff that happened in between. So she was born, everyone came in. Like I said, I was very, very ill. I was literally just pouring with sweats with this sepsis, this infection. Yeah, it was harsh. Obviously I had an epidural, and like I said, I pushed that button so many times because it was such strong contractions that my legs were just completely numb for such a long time. So they left me for like 7 hours, and I asked my partner if they would check my bladder because nobody had put a catheter in me and since birth, and I thought it was probably time for me to urinate because they'd given me fluids and everything. And then when she did, she sort of explained that they might have accidentally stretched my bladder because there was so much liquid in there. She said it was 200 ml off of me having to wear a bag on my leg for 2 weeks. So as you can imagine, I was very happy with that. But so they had stretched my bladder, just not to the point where I had to wear a bag. So I'm trying to retrain my bladder now, which is an experience. So after that, I got wheeled down to the ward, and then in the ward, I had my partner and my birthing partner in there for a while, and then they had to go home. Well, they weren't with me long, but I had 2 cannulas, I think they're called, in my hands, so I was unable to like move or use my hands, which was really frustrating. And obviously, like I said, I wasn't able to use my legs, so I was kind of just stuck in bed. And then so it was really hard for me to try and deal with the baby and everything when I couldn't pick her up properly, or my legs, I couldn't get up and do anything. So as the night went on, did they, I can't remember if I had it. Oh yeah, they put another catheter in, I think, and it was attached by a balloon. And then during I think it was during the night, I must have had to get up to get her to change her nappy. And as I gotten up, they hadn't put a nappy. They hadn't put any knickers or pads on me, so I had the catheter hanging out. And then obviously once I got up, blood went everywhere, went all over the floor, all over the bed. And I was trying to jump back on this bed. I had her in my hands. Like I said, I had these 2 needles going through my hands, so I was unable to like put my hand down flat, pull myself up on the bed. My legs were a bit jelly-like. Managed to climb back on the bed with her, so I could do everything on the bed and feed her and everything. And I accidentally yanked the catheter as I was coming up, which, like I said, has got a balloon on the end of it, so that was really painful. And then I was just sort of stuck there, and as I was looking at the clock, it was like 5 in the morning, so I thought, well, it's only a few hours and my sister will be back in and she can help me sort myself out. So within that, like a few hours later, she turned up and she cleaned me up, cleaned all the mess up that I'd made, cleaned the baby up, and then held her while I fell asleep for an hour. Obviously, like at this point, I'd not slept at all for the past 3 days. So I was deliriously tired, and obviously, like I said, I had an infection, so that makes you a little bit doodle-lally. So it was really hard for me to concentrate on what was happening, and people coming in and out doing all the tests and everything, and they obviously had to check her to make sure that she didn't have the infection. And then the next day, they had to see if I could go to the toilet without the catheter in, that's right. And basically I wasn't able to go, but the reason I didn't realise at the time, like I said, I was doolally. I hadn't actually drank anything, so I went to go to the toilet and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't need the toilet, I am not able to go. So I explained to them I was not able to go, and they assumed that it was because I'd had the catheter in for so long and everything's happened and I needed another one put back in because I was unable to go myself, and you're only allowed to be discharged if you're able to go to the toilet. Little did I know, I just hadn't had a drink, so there was nothing in there to come out. So as the day's gone on, I'd had some food and like sat down with the baby, relaxed. My sister was there, like I said, and my partner came in when it was the 2 people allowed in, and they gave, so I was paying attention to how much fluid I was taking in. They put in another catheter and said that they would rather not have to take it out and check again, but I said I was draining myself with the fluid and everything was going fine. And then so they said if they take it out, they won't be able to put another one back in. But I explained to them, no, the reason I didn't go to the toilet is just because I just genuinely forgot I didn't even have a drink. And so they let me, I said, oh, can you take it out? And I would make sure I drink, and I will go to the toilet before I leave, because I really want to leave. Otherwise, I'm discharging myself, because like I said, on the ward there was a screaming baby, screaming babies, to the point that one of them had to be rushed off to another hospital because it hadn't had a bowel movement, so it was just screaming the whole time. And between that, the fact that I didn't feel comfortable or safe, like I said, they'd not looked after me properly, so I was just sat in a pool of blood, unable to get in and out of the bed at all. I had these needles in my hands. I needed help. It was just a state. And I had all of those people at home 15 minutes away just waiting to help me. So I was like, I'd rather be at home at this point. There's nothing wrong with her. So I said, after she's had her checks, I will just discharge myself, because I feel fine enough to go home. I just want to go home. And so she said, okay, so I'll take it out, but I need you to do 2 weeks before you go. And so they came round and did the checks on her. Everything was fine with her hearing and all of that stuff. And then I just drank plenty of water, and I was able to go to the toilet twice. And then we came home. We were home for a night, and then, as you can see, she's a bit jaundiced. She was really jaundiced. And when the health visitor come round the next day, they did the little zapper thing on, and it was it was really high. I think 10 is safe, 18 they worry, and I think we were on like 27, maybe something like that. And so we had to go straight into hospital, back into hospital, and she then had to be put under a blue light. The trouble is with this little madam, she did not want to be put down. And I mean, literally does not want to be put down. She was screaming. I have not mentioned yet, so she had tongue tied, and basically it just means the frenulum, that bit there, is just a little bit too far forward, so she's unable to open her mouth properly or lift her tongue. And it's really common now, because when they make you take folic acid, is part of that, and having the healthy pregnancy causes them to grow this too efficiently, basically. So anyway, so she's obviously exclusively breastfeeding, but because she's had the tongue tie, it made it severely hard. And we were put on a referral, which they said could take 3 weeks. So I was struggling with breastfeeding her. So it meant that she was constantly wanting to latch on, and then trying to put her in an incubator. So they put them in for 6 hours to begin with, and she wouldn't be put down for 2 minutes. But she needed to be in there, because the time we were in there, I think it was I want to say an hour. They tested her again, and she went skyrocketed, and she was halfway towards needing a blood transfusion, within 20 minutes or something. So obviously it got really serious really quickly, because I've always just known jaundice to be something quite common. So I was worried, but I wasn't that worried. And then obviously it being a struggle with having to try and put her in there, they give us I think it's called a billy blanket, and because it's a bilirubin is the name of the jaundice. So it was a billy blanket, and then that meant I could have her out of the bed. But the thing is she wants to be held. It's not just off the bed, she wants to be held and close to you, and she's in this hot blanket. Like I said, I've still got an infection, so I'm boiling hot and sweating, and I'm trying to feed her while not letting her overheat, because a bilirubin blanket does not have any regulating of temperature, whereas the incubator does. All the midwives that came in, they're like, oh no, all the babies absolutely love the incubator, and she will settle. So we had to stay in for another 12 hours because her levels weren't dropping. And like I said, so 19 hours she was meant to be under the blue light. I think she may have done 7, 8, maybe, if that. So they tried everything they could to try and help her relax and stuff, but she just didn't she didn't want to, but in the end, her numbers dropped, and she dropped halfway, so they allowed it just under the line, so they allowed us to go home. And then the next day they came in again, checked her, it was still high, so they have to do pricks of blood on their feet and then send that away. And then it was, I think it was like 25, so it was going down but still high. And then a few days later, same thing, and we just kept going, and then we had to keep going back every couple of days, or 2 days I think it was. And then the last reading we did was 2 days, no, yesterday, no, 2 days ago. And so basically I had to, it was down to 18, which obviously is still high, so we've been referred to the children's hospital, because once they have had jaundice for more than 12 days, they like to just make sure that it's not because of any other reason. So we will be going back to hospital for that. And let me just tell you about the tongue tie. So obviously, like I said, it's very common now with children. And my second youngest, Thomas, he had a tongue tie too, and he didn't have his done until his 3 months. But so we waited for the referral, and like I said, it ended up being in 4 weeks from when she was born. So we decided to go privately, and we had that done yesterday. So at 2 weeks old, she had it done, and she was really good. And ever since having it done, she's so much more content. She would take a big feed, and now she will actually sleep for a good chunk of time, like she is right now. And this is it's quite a relief, really, because like I said, she was constantly feeding because she'd fall off. She wasn't able to suck properly because of her tongue, and it was quite distressing for her and for me, obviously, because it's really painful and makes you very, very sore. So I'm glad we're past that now, and we're getting to the good parts, and hopefully it just gets better from here. I'm still so grateful though, because having my sister there, I just couldn't believe how much went wrong with a qualified midwife watching over them. It just blows my mind. I'd be scared if I was, or I didn't have her, because goodness knows what on earth they would have done. I just felt like I wasn't looked after properly, and it was all down to the personal opinion of the midwife. And I just don't think, it wasn't a positive experience for me. Like, obviously having her is a positive experience, but the birth itself was really traumatic, and I'm really grateful that there's something in women's brains that make you forget all the traumatic things. But yeah, so as how I'm feeling, like I said, when I got home, I was so sleep deprived, but I found it really hard. I had separation anxiety from her, so I was unable to, like I said, she wouldn't be put down, and I couldn't be away from her. So even if I was trying to fall asleep, someone would have to hold her next to me. So that was the first lots of sleep I've got at that time. And then obviously when day 3, when your baby blues and your milk comes in, I've pretty much cried every day since. I've had days that have been really, really hard, but also had days where I'm like really happy. It goes like this throughout the day. So like I will cry my eyes out because I'm just so in love with her, and I couldn't imagine life without her. And then I will just cry my eyes out for reasons that I have no idea. I just couldn't even tell you what on earth I'm crying about sometimes. But it's just the amount of hormones going through my body, and it's all normal. But like my partner and my sister have been really good at making sure that it's nothing more than just the normal blues and stuff with me. But it's definitely it's definitely hard work having a little one that won't be put down. But I do appreciate every moment because I know in a blink of an eye she'll be a teenager telling me to get out of her room. And I just want to cuddle. Did you find that funny? Did you? So I am trying to enjoy every single moment. The difference of having a child when you're a teenager and when you're a more mature adult, let's call me that, is so different. I'm like a lot more of a warrior than I was when I was younger. Which is crazy because you think I know more now, so I shouldn't worry about it. But I think because you know more, you worry about it. You worry about all the little things and all the things that could go wrong and how precious everything is, and you're much more aware. But yeah, I definitely worried a lot more this time and than I did before. To be young and naive, huh? I think it helps you with a child though. But anyway, this was meant to be my birth story, but I did ramble on. I hope that makes sense to you, how it all went. But like I said, I was a bit of a blur for me, and I always find it amazing how some people remember, because I suppose if you went in on one day and then came out the same day, I would remember, but mine is all over the place. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and I really appreciate everyone's love and comments about about her and wishing me well. But until the next one, this is Penelope.